This is the Unstoppable Amazon Academy podcast,
where we bring you the business advice, skills, and e-commerce news you need to grow a profitable, sustainable business.
This is the Unstoppable Amazon Academy show where we help you build profitable and sustainable businesses in e-commerce. Today we're talking about one of the questions that I feel like I talk about a lot, and that's how do I know when I'm really ready to hire? And I think one of the reasons this comes up over and over again is because there's multiple times in your business where you're going to be faced with the same question, but it's going to feel like it's coming at you in a different way. So the first person you hire, it's going to be really concerns about money. Can you afford to pay them? You know, the overwhelm of like, I don't know how to hire. What do I really need legal wise in order to hire? And then as you start to move farther along in your business, there's a point where you're going to have to start outsourcing a lot of your day-to-day pieces. And those day-to-day pieces that you're really working on in your business, you will outsource so that you can start to learn and become more of a CEO where you're managing kind of the trains running on time, but you're not actually in the engine room of the trains. So maybe instead of shopping now, you're working on relationships, you're planning things out, you're watching for capital, you're looking at reports, you're in meetings a little bit more. And that can be really, really disorienting. Almost as disorienting as hiring your first hire. So let's talk a little bit about what you need to do in order to hire and to know when you're ready for your first hire. And, maybe we can kind of circle back and talk a little bit about that CEO piece as well. So with your first hire, the thing that you really want to think about is you need to make sure that you've really started to think about how this person is going to stay in your business, how long they're going to stay in your business, what they're going to be doing, and are you being reasonable about skill sets? One of the bigger mistakes that I see people is they want to have somebody who will do your books and then also do graphic design. It is a very small percentage of the population that can do both graphic design and something really analytical. So if you're looking for somebody who's going to help you in your warehouse, then more than likely, unless you have something that's very systemized and very, step 1, step 2, step 3, they're probably going to have a hard time helping you source. If you hire somebody to help you source, then if you bring them into the warehouse piece or ask them to help you with sponsored products, many times they're going to be a little bored with that. They're not somebody, there's a different personality type that likes to go out and build relationships with managers and try new stores than somebody who's like, I would love to be able to just do the same thing every day. And both people are kind of vital to help you grow your business, but you have to understand that there are going to be different types of people and different personality types. One of the tests that we found very helpful is the DISC test, D-I-S-C. And the other test that we really look at a lot is the Kolbe test, which is K-O-L-B-E, Kolbe test. Those two personality tests give us a good idea of somebody's natural tendencies, their personality, what kinds of things that they're going to feel comfortable and safe doing. So somebody who's really good at sponsored products, they're probably going to be in that C category for DISC, where maybe somebody who's a shopper might be more of a D or an I, and somebody in the warehouse is probably going to be an S. So knowing what kind of position you want before you get ready to hire is really important to make sure you end up with the right person. There's 3 pieces that you really want to make sure that you have in place before you start to hire. The first is you want to make sure that you're really clear on what the position is going to entail. So start working on a job description, what they would be responsible for, how you would measure if they were doing a good job, what you expect them to yield. So if you're looking at hiring somebody to pack and you've been doing all the packing yourself, then you might want to start to time yourself and say, okay, how long does it take me to do packing from this source? And maybe this wholesale source, how long does it take me to do that? So I have some numbers. Now, one of the biggest pitfalls in hiring somebody for warehouse help, somebody who's going to help you pack, is usually somebody who's detail oriented enough that will do a really good long-term sustainable job on that box piece. They are not going to move as fast as you do. They are going to move a little slower. They're going to pack a little slower. And so what I see people do is they go to hire out packing and they end up firing one person after the other because, it took them twice as long as it did me in order to pack that box. And this kind of goes into step 2. And that is that you really have to know your worth. How much are you consistently bringing into the business? So how much would you pay yourself for these tasks. So how much are you worth per hour? Once you have this number, it's going to make a lot of the hiring decisions much, much easier. Now, this is at the first hire, but it's just as true at the CEO level when you're in, maybe the 7-figure mark and you know that you need to expand out your team. This is something you need to know. The reason you need to know that is if you know that if you're going out to a show sourcing, or if you're on the phone for wholesale, you're in stores sourcing RA, you're on the phone with suppliers to maybe get your private label made and manufactured, that if you know on average that, you're able to bring in to the bottom line $100 per hour for those queen bee roles, those things that only you can do, that you bring in consistent revenue, that which is really important if you're getting for your first hire. You need to have enough experience with this business to know that when you outsource this other smaller task, that you're going to basically be able to arbitrage that time, that you're going to be able to make more focusing on those higher value tasks. That's going to be really important. So once you see that you're able to do that, it becomes really clear on whether or not you are ready to hire. So if you're still in the early phases, you've just started your business, you don't really know how much revenue you're able to pull in, you don't know how much you could spend if you had additional help, it might be time to just pump the brakes just a little bit. Maybe you get a virtual assistant, something along those lines. But if I just had more time sourcing, because time right now is the limiting factor for me. That's one of the important things. Time becomes the limiting factor. And if I had more time to do this, I could bring in a lot more profit. Now, that means that you've already kind of had an idea of, what your ROI is, what your fixed expenses are, and what your break-even point is. But if you have all those pieces together, then you're going to be able to say, man, I know that if I had more time to do this higher value task, then I'm bringing in maybe $40 per hour. For many of you, it's going to be $100 per hour very easily. For your highest value tasks, you could bring that in per hour. Then I know that if I hire somebody at $10 an hour and I take the time that they save me because I'm not having to pack those boxes or I'm not having to go to this particular store to go pick up inventory, then I know that I could bring in more to my bottom line and they would more than pay for themselves. So that's going to help you significantly. So when you're at the CEO level, you might say, well, I know that I can bring in on my most valuable tasks, I can bring in $100 per hour, so that if I know that right now I'm packing boxes, I'm paying $100 per hour to pack boxes because my most important employee, which is me, is not working on really important things. It's working on really things that are kind of below their wage level. So it'd be kind of like if you asked your bookkeeper to take out the trash, you're charging you a lot of money per hour. So asking them to take out the trash is not a good use of your resources. Now, as you hire, especially for that first packing position, kind of jumping back to that, sometimes people will let somebody go because they're slow, right? But if you're worth $50 per hour or $40 per hour and they're twice as slow as you are, it takes them 2 hours for every 1 hour it would have taken you, but you're paying them $10 per hour, then even when you include payroll taxes and everything, let's say that takes up to $12.50 per hour, then it's taking them 2 hours to do what took you 1. That's $25, where you can make $45 if you're doing other things in your business. That still makes sense. If your VA, who you're paying $4 an hour, takes 10 times longer than you to do something, then it's still kind of a break-even point, right? And that's a real big exaggeration. So don't look at the time, look at the comparison between the hourly value they're bringing in. And so you need to start looking at when time is a limiting factor and then knowing your value. And then you have to be willing and able to standardize. Now that means when you're looking through your best practices, you're trying to build out these SOPs, you have to be willing to take some of the levels of nuance and complexity out of it. Where, I know somebody that we were working on some processes and he's like, well, repricing is just much more nuanced than that because we have this one and then we have this line. And, instead of trying to break out every nuance for every situation, you can say, 90% of the time it's going to be this. And I'm just going to put in our process that if you see this, send it to me and I'll do these 1% of items until I feel confident to teach you this nuanced piece of it. So you don't have to teach them everything all at once, but we want to start to standardize things. The best way to start building your systems out, to start to prepare for bringing a new hire in, is going to be for you to record the screen for anything computer oriented. You're going to use something like Camtasia or Snagit or Jing, and you want to do it in very small sections. So I recommend that you keep it to about 5 minutes or less, and you're going to break out those pieces. You're going to record how you do it, and as you're doing the steps, you're going to narrate it, where you're going to say, I go to Amazon.com, I make sure DS Quick View and Rev ROI are already on Chrome. I make sure that I had it opened in Chrome, and then I go to the ASIN and I look for here and I try to see X, and you're going to narrate all of those pieces out. Then you're going to go to a program called Temi, Temi, or Rev.com. So TEMI.com or Rev.com, REV.com. And you're going to upload the video and it will transcribe it. Temi is 10 cents per minute. Rev is done by a human being, so it's a little more accurate, but that is $1 per minute. You're going to have them transcribe that. And then you're going to break it up. You're going to spend, some time in front of the TV or some time when you just can't source right now. You're going to format it so that it's steps. And you're going to take a look at it and say, what can I do to reduce the time this takes by 10 seconds? Are these steps in the right order? Is there anything I can do to streamline this? Are there exceptions that I can say, if you see this, send it to me? So once you have those steps that are out there, then you might need to go back and re-record the video. So you might need to go back and do it again with the new steps. Before you hire, I recommend that you actually try doing the processes with the steps, or maybe have somebody who doesn't have an Amazon background go through these steps and make sure that they actually work. Because a lot of times, because we are so familiar with Amazon, we forget to explain things like what is an ASIN or where do you find this piece of information, because it's so common sense to us and to the people we talk to on a day-to-day basis. But somebody who hasn't ever done any kind of Amazon work is not going to know what an ASIN is or whether or not the offer was FBA or merchant fulfilled. You're going to need to be able to tell them all those pieces. That's why I like to have somebody who hasn't had the same experience and background in Amazon test the process. Or, I try to run through the process and I see myself, is there anything else that is missing? So once you've kind of gone through that, you've maybe re-recorded, adjusted your processes. Now, I recommend that you keep all of your processes in one Word document rather than a bunch of different Word documents, because otherwise people are going to have to be clicking in and out of a lot of them. If you Google how to create a table of contents, just by using some formatting tools in Word, you can have it magically kind of create your table of contents for you. This way you have all of your processes all in the same place. So it will help you speed things up significantly. So once you know exactly what you're going to have your person that you're bringing on do, what are going to be their responsibilities, how long do you expect it to take, what is it going to allow you to do that's going to have a higher dollar per value, you have some steps that are laid out that are going to help you standardize your process and to have those processes built before they get there. Now you're ready to post your job, because now you know exactly what you're looking for. You've thought through the kind of personality that's going to work through this kind of process well. So you're going to be in a much better position to hire. So once you have this person, I recommend using Gusto for payroll. I have an affiliate link. I don't do a lot of affiliate stuff, but with Gusto, I think you get like a $200 credit or something along those lines. So feel free to reach out to me. We'll put a referral link in the show notes. So if you would like to use Gusto, that's something that we really recommend. I also recommend that you use some sort of time tracking piece to help them clock in and clock out. If it's in person, T-Sheets is a really great option. If you're doing a combination of contractors and employees, some that are local, maybe some that are off-site, like virtual assistants, Hubstaff is a really great option as well. Some of the other options that we've looked at have been Harvest and Tick, which we both have had good success with as well. We try a lot of these different tools out as our team kind of changes over time. So now that you have their payroll set up, now the nice thing about Gusto is it will help you get all of the payroll pieces. So all the things that you need to do, like, getting the copy of the driver's license and all of that, it will gather all of that from the new employee. So you don't have to worry about that. In most states, you're required to have workers' comp. but you're not required to have workers' comp on yourself, just your other employees, right? So you would want to go and make sure that you have workers' comp before you hire. The other thing you might want to talk to your business insurance about is you want to make sure that if they're sourcing and driving around, you have a hired and rented auto rider on your insurance policy. So if they were to get in an accident, then you're covered. If they're working from your home, another checklist item that you're going to want to look at is talking to your insurance, whether it's your homeowner's insurance or your business insurance, and say, if somebody was to get hurt as an employee on my property, how would that be handled? Are you covered? Because you do want to make sure that all of those things are taken care of, all those I's are dotted. That's really all the scary part that I think keeps people from hiring, because they're not really sure what they're going to do. Gusto will automatically collect and remit to the state payroll, to FICA, to all of that, so you don't have to worry about that. And as they onboard the new employee, they're going to ask them all the questions to make sure they're collecting and remitting the correct amount for payroll taxes. There are some people out there who just say hire everybody as a contractor. There's some potential pitfalls to that. It seems easier because you don't have to deal with payroll taxes, and it can seem a little less scary. But let's say you hired somebody as a contractor and they were fine with it, but they didn't really understand the tax liabilities of it. Or worse, things didn't work out and you ended up having to fire that person. And now they go to file unemployment. If you hire them as a contractor and they were really an employee, then what the government can do is go back and say, you owe all of these payroll taxes because you were not paying because this was not a contractor. They did not meet those requirements of working on their own equipment, working on their own schedule, all of those pieces. So now you owe us for all of that. So if you are not careful, that can be what is required. So you want to make sure that you've thought that through. It's really easy to look at the requirements, and it's pretty clear on who's an employee and who's not. You just need to Google employee versus contractor IRS for the United States, and it will tell you very clearly what does it consider somebody who's a contractor versus somebody who is an employee. So we've had both. We've had people who were legitimately contractors. We've had people who were also employees, and we offer benefits for our employees that are full-time. This can really help with your insurance piece. So some states will subsidize a portion of maybe the first year, the first couple years of you offering benefits to your employees as far as health insurance. You might be able to get a much better rate, and you're going to get a better quality of applicant, and people will stay longer if they have access to those benefits. So considering a benefits package, especially after you move to employee 5, 6, can really, really be something that's worth considering. But if you're at your first hire, let's go back and kind of look at what you need to do. You need to make sure you have a job description, what they're going to do, how many hours you're going to need them to do it. You're going to know what your hourly value is, and so what you can afford to pay, and know that you're able to consistently generate that a certain amount of money that's going to take to pay them on a consistent basis, which also means that you need to have a cash flow, weekly cash flow, so you know how to manage your cash to make sure you're not going to get short where you're not able to pay payroll. You're going to write out the systems and the processes and the training pieces before you hire them, because you want to have that the first day, or you're not going to look like you're put together. You want to make sure that you have that right away. It's going to make the training process much faster. And then you're going to use something like Gusto to hire them. That's going to capture all of that onboarding paperwork. If you're in our Unstoppable Amazon Academy, we have a whole section on hiring local hires, which goes through the paperwork that you need. It goes through workers' comp. It has a lot of those things. And if there's ever anything missing, just post in the Facebook group. We can usually make a video in the next couple days for you that would help you explain those pieces. That's how the Academy gets better. Is squeaky wheels tell us this module would be really helpful. So you can go through that in the Academy if you have it. Once you have onboarded them, you're going to start training them. And this is where that last piece of something that I really want you to be prepared for. And that's failure needs to be an option. You might not hire the right person off the bat. So you might have to let that person go, and you might need to hire a new person, because sometimes what you think you need and what you really need are going to take time. Sometimes you didn't ask the right questions. Again, if you're in the Academy, we have a whole list of interview questions for different kinds of positions that you can use and you can ask. And we have some links onto the kinds of questions that you're not allowed to ask. So you're not worrying if you're doing the right thing. That's what the Academy is for. So you're going to be able to go through and know that you might have to rehire somebody else. And then once once you hire somebody, the hardest part is letting them be empowered enough to actually do the task that you hired them to do, giving them the training that they need, and then once they have the training down, giving them the permission to take and run with that. So our warehouse manager never needed to ask to get boxes. Once he had been trained on how to buy boxes and how many boxes we buy and where we buy them and what portal to buy them through, then he went and did that himself, and he had discretionary access to an account that he could make purchases for the warehouse, tape, labels, and he could do that on his own. So you want to make sure that the people that you're working with, once they've been trained, that there is some way for you to check their work to make sure that everything is going the way that it's supposed to. Because if an employee messes up, it's always your fault because it's your business. And then, you want to make sure that as they've proven themselves to be a valuable member of the team, that they're able to make the discretionary choices in order to free up your time. So you have to kind of stop yourself from pulling back the tasks that you just gave to them. So all of those pieces are kind of things that you need to think about when you're looking to hire. When you're trying to decide, are you ready? You want to look at, is time the limiting factor? Is it just that you don't have enough time, but there is enough capital? What is working, you're really clear on, and you're looking to pour gasoline on what's already working. I don't recommend you taking out a loan to hire people, and I don't recommend that you hire a bunch of people in a process that you haven't already proven as working. So if you think that if you just had a salesperson to go and call wholesale leads that would work, first you want to actually make those calls yourself and say, okay, I'm not a salesperson. I was able to get a couple, so I know that this process works. So now I feel comfortable hiring out. You don't want to just jump a step and hire out for a process that maybe you saw in a course, but you've never actually done yourself to see if it works today or if it works in your market or it works with your product mix. So as you're getting ready to hire, we've talked about a lot of the things that you need to do to prepare, a lot of things that you need to do to make sure you're staying legal. But then you also want to make sure that you're clear, what are you going to be doing in the time that you save? This is going to free you up and making sure that you're focusing that time on the highest value revenue generating tasks as possible. At Rocky Mountain Reseller Conference, one of the things that I shared about is that a lot of people kind of manage by Jenga. They just kind of push on tasks, and whatever the easiest task to pull away, that's what they focus on. Instead of just focusing on what task you can do quickly, we want to say, what are the tasks that have the highest priority that are going to help open up more cash flow for my business? I'm going to do those things first. And I'm going to save the new course, the shiny objects, the things I'm really excited for the end of the day once I've already completed those must-do, revenue-producing, only I can do queen bee role tasks. That will really help you make sure that you're getting the best benefit out of having somebody hired and ready to go. So this has been another episode of the Unstoppable Amazon Academy, where we help you build profitable and sustainable businesses in e-commerce, and we hope that you have a prosperous week.
Are you looking to grow your business?
Join our Unstoppable Amazon Academy with hundreds of video and step-by-step tutorials to walk you through the skills you need to take your business to the next level. Find out more at bestfromthenest.com/academy.
Use the promo code podcast to get a 14-day trial.